So, welcome everybody to this week's edition of Level Up. And now, Rick Lambert should join me here shortly. He may be experiencing some technical difficulties. My good buddy Wes McDonald is out in Las Vegas attending the BTA show in Las Vegas. So, for right now, we're going to get started though, and I'm going to ask my favorite question because I'm always curious where everybody's watching from. So let me ask this one first. Where are you joining us from today? I am in another place. It seems like every show lately I'm in another place. Um, Today I am in Lubbock, Texas. I came out here to pick up a vehicle and bring it back to my house. And Rick has joined us. So good morning, Rick. Where are you watching from, or where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm not in Lubbock, Texas today, but I've got a Lubbock, Texas story if you want it.
Okay, I'll take your Lubbock, Texas story.
So I go into Lubbock, Texas one time speaking at an event, and the VP of sales introduces me. Hey, we got this guy, sales coach Rick Lambert, going to talk to us today. He's a consultant on the industry. Welcome, Rick. So I get up there, and there's about 60 salespeople for a large OEM. And I said, a lot of us call ourselves a consultant, but does anybody, it says in our business card, remember that was the buzzword, Ken, everybody was a consultant all of a sudden. And I said to the group, does anybody have a good definition of what a consultant is? And this older dude at the back with cowboy boots in Lubbock, Texas, he raised his hand. I said, yes, sir. May I ask what your definition of a consultant is? He says, it's a guy from out of town. And anyway, that's the best one I've heard yet, buddy. Anyway, thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining. And good morning, Greg. Where are you watching from? Are you still in Michigan, or are you back in Economowoc? I just can't help saying Economowoc.
Economowoc sounds like a product.
Yeah. All right. So, and Art, good morning. How are you this morning, Art? Let's see. Pop these up here for a second. Okay. So we got some people joining us today. And it's really interesting. I'm going to share. Actually, let me post one other slide because I forget. Nope, did that one. So for everybody that's joining us, let us know if you have any questions or comments, because these shows are designed to be conversations. We're not just us blathering on, though sometimes I've been accused of that, but it's about having a conversation with our audience. And Rick's really good at that. Let's see. I got good morning, OJ is with us from Alexandria. Art's in Las Vegas. He's out there for the BTA show, probably. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to talk. Rick is an expert on LinkedIn, and so we're going to talk about that. And I want to say that in the spirit of full disclosure, I took his course and I loved it. It definitely helped me make some improvements in my LinkedIn presence. Now I'll say this too. I'm probably not where Rick is, and I'm not sure I could get there anytime soon, but I'm working on getting better. And we already have a question. So Greg asked about the newsletter function in LinkedIn. So we can start with that.
Sure. Do you want to answer the question? So, hey, just a couple quick comments. Greg, thanks for your question. Good one, by the way. You mentioned expert. I don't think I'm really an expert. I think I'm more of a student, to be honest, Ken. And this LinkedIn thing has really been supercharged, I'll call it, when COVID hit and we realized that, we didn't have the in-person access to senior people or decision makers. And that's when I realized, as a sales coach, I work a lot in the tech sector, and there is a need to kind of figure out how to strengthen one's digital DNA. And that was just the natural watering hole where everybody was going. So I'm still a student. Appreciate your comments. So sorry, the newsletter LinkedIn function. Love it, Greg. There's so many functions that LinkedIn has evolved to provide people, and they simply don't know about it. How many of us have bought watches and all we use it for is the time, right? Yet it can measure our calorie, yada, yada, it can do all these things. And so I think anything you can do on LinkedIn that's going to touch your audience, whether it's a newsletter. This morning, actually, I just put out a video to a large managed service provider. We're hosting with them a webinar on managed services tomorrow, and I was showing them a function how you can actually invite your entire LinkedIn network or search just by geography. So in this case, they're out of Columbus, let's say they're based, so Columbus contacts only, or search by position, and you can then invite those people right away to the webinar tomorrow, and it's just phenomenal. So whether it's the newsletter, the ability to invite somebody to an event like Ken you do with this one here, there's so many tools that I think go unutilized. But Greg, I know you're a forward thinker, like a front runner in terms of this platform. So I would highly advise you use it. And I think when people see other people using it, that's when the adoption seems to follow.
Yeah, and it's interesting because after taking your boot camp course, one of the things that I do now is in my service management class I teach, I have all of the students start looking at their competition, and also encourage them to think about their presence on LinkedIn. And I share mine with them so that they see the changes that I have made, because so many of them still have a plain background. They just have the default. There's so many things that people can do to improve it, and it doesn't cost anything.
I spoke at BTA, sorry, it would be earlier this year, and I really appreciate the feedback from the folks that were there down in Orlando. I talked about a topic, LinkedIn to Win, and there's some basics, as you say, Ken, like just, I would argue that your profile is your new digital business card. And it's amazing how many, come back and say, hey, Rick, I'm looking at your 30-day LinkedIn bootcamp, but I already fixed my profile. I'm like, okay, well, that's just the beginning. Like, that's putting a shirt on without a stain to make a sales call, But thank you for the kind words. That 30-day LinkedIn bootcamp used to be 90 days, actually, before COVID. And then we had our clients come to us say, look, we don't have that much time. We got to get going digitally. So we backed it into 30 days. But, just the basics you talk about, like, it starts, a lot of people say, where do we get started? Right. So I think the first thing you need to do is become a spectator. And by that, I mean, watch what other people are doing, take a look at other people's profiles, because who be it for me or you or anybody else to say, hey, this is what you should do on LinkedIn. This is what you should look like. I would say there's some guardrails that we try to keep people within. Classic mistakes for me would be, making outlandish comments that may alienate some of your audience. Now, I'm talking from a sales perspective, by the way, too. And so some others, want to attract attention by being disruptive or, going counterflow to the norm to stand out and attract attention. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying different people have different end goals. But, I think, I'm a Canadian guy, but I think you guys have, do you guys have some politics down there, Ken? I think you got that. So, whatever you believe, whether it's religion, politics, sometimes those can alienate some of your audience. And, again, it's your profile, you got to do what you think's right. But as a salesperson, I would just think, you probably want to align with more people than less in most instances anyway.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I see some people that say things that alienate me and make me less likely to pay attention to them. Just because, and everybody has their right to have an opinion, and they have the right to share it. But, if you share an opinion consistently that I find offensive, or don't want to hear, what happens is I unfollow you and I don't have to listen anymore, and so when you're in the sales business or and let's broaden this out, because I think that we could say it, LinkedIn is a sales tool, but I think in a much broader perspective, it's a marketing tool. And so when you say something on LinkedIn, it needs to represent your brand and the ideals of your brand, more so than personal opinion. I have multiple LinkedIn profiles. I have one for my business. I have one for another business I have, but I try to make sure that I stay consistent brand wise, for the profile associated with the brand, I guess is the best way to say it. What do you think?
Well, I think most people haven't figured out what their brand is. And, I think LinkedIn is the birthplace where most people start their personal brand in a digital forum. And, old school, Ken, I'm probably way younger than most of the people on here, but anyway, old school. When I grew up, it was your reputation, right? You developed a good reputation within the market or the geography that you sold in, and I would argue that LinkedIn now is where you start to earn your reputation with people by the way you conduct yourself on there. I mean, really, it's nothing more than a great big digital chamber of commerce meeting. That's what I tell people. That's what I think it is, right? You go in this room, you got CEOs. You go in this room, you got procurement people. You go in that room, and depending on your audience, there's a room for everybody. And this next BTA meeting, appreciate the opportunity to come back. And I'm actually talking on personal branding to win, and we're building an online course. It's going to come out this fall. I'm working with a brand expert on it because I don't think people, and I say this respectfully, I think the sooner people realize that they need to see themselves like a product, if I could call it that, I think they'll be better to understand kind of how they want to present themselves. Like, who is my target ideal audience? What's my USP? How do I want to basically communicate? What are the pain points that target audience has that aligns with my USP? How do I want to? And the last thing that I think puts a lot of people in the penalty box with their personal brand is there. I think the less you sell on LinkedIn, the more you're going to sell.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that as we get to our last topic for today. I'm going to go through, and Greg, I did see your question, and we're going to get to your question as we go down a little bit farther. But let me ask this first of all: why do you think people are resistant to LinkedIn?
So, there's an old list that we all saw in grade school, right? The 10 things we fear most, like insects, heights. I think LinkedIn's probably maybe even made it in the top 10, and that's being, on screen on these digital platforms. I think there's a couple reasons. One, it's amazing. I mean, you're comfortable on a screen here. I know some of the other folks that are on today personally, they do a great job on LinkedIn and aren't afraid to put their mug out there. But this is not a natural thing for a lot of people. And I think some fear being on camera. I can tell you, we've got a video team, studio, all that stuff. We have senior people that you would assume they'd be comfortable talking, and they've talked in front of people. But as soon as we bring them in the studio, we turn the camera on, the teleprompter, the lights and all that, like they just choke. And for some reason, a camera freaks people out. And that's why I think, you got to be a spectator, practice all the basics. But so number one, I think they're afraid to take those first few strides. You mentioned, which I appreciate, our course. There's lots of stuff out there on LinkedIn that I think you need to be a student before a player, and pick your lane. The other thing too is I have a lot of senior people that on the side come to me and say, "Hey, Ricky, I know you're doing a lot with like digital sales strategies and LinkedIn's in that. Can you help me personally?" And a lot of them feel candidly like they're in a corporate straitjacket. They can't break out with their personal brand. And how do I kind of, appease my employer? But, I don't want to hide behind, this corporate rhetoric that, I get fed through my feed. So they're afraid actually of damaging their brand by making a mistake. And I think that holds a lot of them back. They don't know where to start. And all I would say is it'd be just like, if you wanted to be good at golf, what would you do? You'd probably take a few lessons, right? If you wanted to be good at chess, you'd probably figure out, whatever it is you'd want to do, you'd probably get a little bit of coaching up front. Same reason people come to you, Ken, when it comes to running their service department. Like, why would they not shortcut to success and avoid, errors that could damage their personal brand, or in your case, their service business, right?
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. And for those that are reluctant to get involved in, because I think video is the biggest challenge for most people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I have some people I know and respect that are really good at using video. But what I would say is, and I learned this because I do YouTube videos for my travel business. And one of the things that was interesting, I took a course from a gentleman, and he said, just remember this: your first video is going to be your worst video. But you just got to punch fear in the face and hit record. Because if you get 1% better on every video, pretty soon you're going to be making some pretty decent videos. And it's just a matter of trying. And if you don't ever hit the record button, you'll never get better.
So shooting videos is, is natural for you because, you make all of us frustrated with your videos of where you are on cruise ships and all this stuff, right? So, last fall, really appreciate the Xerox Corporation had us come down to Rochester and coach their top 50 dealers, their top people that came from the dealer, how to shoot basically selfie videos for LinkedIn. And the number one question that we get with them, and we're coaching MBAs now, or like outside, we'll call it the tech, industry even, is what do I say on video? Because it's one thing to be framed right and, have the right background or whatever it is, the technical stuff, but a lot of people don't know what to say. Some classic errors you'll see, I would say is like, people often, and I was taught this by a guy who was a TV anchor for a tier 1 TV network. He was the anchor guy. He said, Rick, a lot of people don't think about like they're talking to one person. So when you look at the camera, a lot of people say, you all this, or you all, like, you want to talk to one person. So if you watch, for example, I took what he taught me. When I talk on LinkedIn, I talk to you. I don't talk to all of you. I'm not talking to a group. The second thing is he taught me a lot of times you need to figure out the end before the beginning, meaning how many times we watch the video on LinkedIn or elsewhere, and it ends like a voicemail, right? Because the guy or lady hasn't thought through what they're going to say at the end. So they finish their point about whatever it is they want to talk about, and then they go, and I hope you have a great day, whatever it is. Like they just don't end it with maybe a crisp ending that they could. And then the last thing, sorry, I'm just digging through my lost and found box here. But the other thing I see that I think is an opportunity is, to keep it short, stupid. Like we're watching analytics on websites, on videos on YouTube, websites, LinkedIn, like the drop off point is like 35 seconds. And so if you're talking for longer than 35, which, I often do, by the way, so I'm guilty. But I try to keep it under a minute. You may be the only one watching, like if you're deep into it.
Yeah, and so here's again, this goes back to, and this gentleman's name, for those of you that want to learn more about video and video presence, because he does a good job. His name is Sean Cannell, and the company is Think Media, and he's really good. But I love one of his sayings, and I'm a firm believer, and he says, "Be brief, be bright, be fun, be done."
Yeah, yeah.
And if you can make it those things, people will watch it. And if people drop off when you're halfway through and you saved the best for last, they miss the real meat of your product. And it's interesting. The one of the key things too is the very first 5 or 6 seconds are critical to getting people to stay for the video. So you got to give them some reason to watch all that you're going to say.
Yeah, so we learned that, like, some people know, like, we've got a sales coaching business, and then we've got a full stack kind of digital marketing agency that I'm proud to have founded. And there's whether it's a blog, a video, or whatever, it's like an upside down funnel, right? More people at the beginning, and then as it goes on, you're losing people, whether it's a written article, a video, or whatever. The other thing too, I think you've done really well. Is you mentioned earlier putting your videos to YouTube. So a lot of times people will create a video, but it's almost like a transactional thing. You throw it out the window as you're driving and it's gone on social media. And I think, we've had a lot of success with clients like moving their videos to YouTube, which, we know sits second as a search engine to Google, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I think you and I should come back and have a conversation. Maybe catch a day when Wes can make it. By the way, for those that missed it, Wes is at VTA today, and I was hoping he may pop in, but it depends on where they are in the program. But I think that let's say after LinkedIn, probably the least well-utilized tool in a dealership or a business's marketing arsenal, let's say, is YouTube. I don't think very many dealers, very many businesses really use it as powerful as they could. One of the things I talk to service managers about, I say, you get a testimonial, get the person on a Zoom call, ask for their permission, and have them tell the story on Zoom, and then that should be on your website, and it lives in on YouTube. But again, like I said, that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I think it's a good conversation because really, whether it's LinkedIn or video or YouTube, I think what you're trying to do today, Ken, is say to people, hey, there's an opportunity to basically grow your personal brand or the brand of your business. And, for people, I think a lot of your audience are probably imaging centric, technology resellers. And, we see a lot of social activity right now, like people are hiring, right? And so, so we're doing stuff with clients. People can do it themselves, move it to YouTube, whatever. Is like, a basic tour of your facility. Just walk through, right? Put it to a bed of music. Now, here's the little glitch, though, is if you don't understand the basics on kind of branding a video, like ideally you should have probably your logo come in at the beginning, maybe a bit of music. There's some little touches that, the typical millennial Gen Z might be able to figure out for you. But there's often a strategy in terms of, describing the video so it's optimized for search and all that. But with recruiting alone, like we're tuning up a lot of careers pages right now because they're looking at those pages. A lot of them look like senior citizen application homes, by the way. They're very outdated and don't look like the company, right? Anyway, stock photo of no one that works there. But just interviews, like you say, like from customers, from employees, from whatever. But bringing it back to LinkedIn, like video on LinkedIn, if you look at anyone's kind of activity and you walk through kind of the engagement, which is, the likes, comments, and or shares, it's 5 to 10x off the charts as soon as they go on video. And we've actually got a formula. We did a large event for real estate professionals, different industry, but still wanted to get into LinkedIn. And I was showing them, for them, candidly, Facebook's popular and there's different platforms. LinkedIn, we know, isn't the only one. We just think it is the one for B2B. But anyway, we were walking them through kind of how a post kind of accelerates in terms of its engagement based on typical viewer appetite. So the basic post, we're suggesting, by the way, stay away from stock photos and all that crap, right? But try and have an organic picture, meaning something you shot with your camera. Okay, so when you're in the world of the audience we're talking here, maybe you did an install at a customer account. Maybe you sponsored a charity. Take a picture of the outside of the charity building, like organic picture. Next up is a picture of your face in the picture. So now I'm standing in front of the charity logo, sign or whatever, picture of me. You'll see your results bump up right away because people want to see you right on LinkedIn. And then the next one up from that, for those that are a little camera shy, is maybe you do a narration video. So you're behind the camera talking as you follow, but you can hear your voice because really LinkedIn's all about getting to know people. And I can't tell you how many times, whether it's a conference or whatever, or I meet with someone on Zoom, Ken, I'm sure it's the same with you. They feel like they've met you on LinkedIn. And this is why your brand is so important. And it just accelerates so much, I think, of the typical earning the right, building rapport. It's almost like, bang, we can pick up and away we go, like we've been doing business forever. And sorry, in my continuum, so organic picture with your face in it, narration video, and of course the ultimate is you on video, like we've been talking here, right? The selfie.
Yep, I know. I agree 100%. And I think it is interesting because, again, we think about the fact that people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
And so as they get to see you and hear you, and I'm going to make a statement, I think this is so critical, is you have to be genuine. Don't try to be somebody you're not on LinkedIn, because that will come through. And the first time they feel a sense of phony in anything that you post or anything that you say or anything that you put up in a video, they're going to be done with you because they've lost their trust. So, you want people to know you, like you, and trust you. So be yourself, be honest, and, and get out there.
And if you're a sales leader watching this, the other thing that's beautiful is, with video, especially your LinkedIn, is your post. People will watch your post after you've posted it. Sometimes a week later, like this little conversation we're having right now. Typically, post viewership far exceeds real time viewership, and so it's a living kind of evergreen thing. But with regard to LinkedIn, the other thing that I think people not enough people have got onto is, like, with our clients, what we're doing is we're creating a LinkedIn guideline document, okay, that is handed out at the sales meeting. and it's basic do's and don'ts. And it's surprising how many, with this new, insurgence of millennials and Gen Zs, and I love them, by the way. We have them on our team because they bring a whole different, thought process, which is good. They just sometimes don't think about what they should and shouldn't do on LinkedIn when they're kind of representing the company. Now, I understand it's their profile, but at least if you have guidelines, like don't park where the customers park in front of the office. Oh, I didn't even think of that. You know what I mean? If you're a new person, basics like that, but on LinkedIn. And so that's another kind of gaping hole that we see that as people are encouraged. And because we've now got our clients actually monitoring LinkedIn activity as a sales activity. So when we grew up, right, it was how many cold calls, phone calls, emails you send, all that matrix that drives the result. We've now got them kind of monitoring and tracking that activity because it just makes sense.
Okay. So let me go just touch a little more on this next question we had is why should people engage? Because, we've talked about why people are resistant. So the next piece of it is if you're not right now actively engaged on LinkedIn, why should they get there?
Okay. So if you don't think LinkedIn is the watering hole where your B2B target ideal customer is hanging out, then this conversation probably may not be for you. If you agree that, LinkedIn provides you with that, like I mentioned earlier, that ultimate Chamber of Commerce meeting, this is for you. So why should you engage? I think, there's different levels of engagement, right? So there's, when we say engage could be, liking someone's post is engaging. Commenting on someone's post is engaging. Commenting on someone's comment on your post is engaging, right? How many times have we seen companies, especially, right, without appropriate social media management, I would call it, where people are actually, they do a great job on a post. Maybe some exciting thing, maybe they won an award, they got some new, whatever it is. And, they have comments, but no one replies to those comments. And it's like, it's just basic, so then the other thing about engaging would, of course, be posting content, which, we think needs to be educational, not promotional. So what's promotional? Like, Ken, you've seen people post like side 1 and side 2 of their copier brochure. Like that's just kind of, talk about skimming, right? So we see a lot of people skimming. So basically engagement will get you, I think, into more, will help you become top of mind at point of need. So when someone's thinking about whatever it is you sell, if you've been active on LinkedIn, chances are people are going to think, geez, I should think about contacting that Ken guy. I forget exactly what his video was, but we're thinking about a trip and I thought I saw that guy in a cruise ship, boom, boom, boom. People always say too, okay, is this engagement effort worth it? Like the activity worth the result, right? Do we get the juice out of the whatever? And look, it depends, right? If I go to the gym once a month, I'm not going to be in that great of shape. But if I go to the gym 3 times a week, which is typically we recommend in terms of an activity, you'll immediately start to see results. What do I mean by that? You'll be growing your network so you can, have access direct to the right people. You'll start to have more conversations, which is the bedrock of sales, right? More conversations. Then you'll start more sales cycles. Then you'll basically sell more stuff. And so I think a lack of engagement, it comes back to what we talked about earlier. Like it's a fear of failure, not sure what to do, not sure what to post. Look, we coached 365 MBAs at Canada's Harvard. Okay. And the number one question we got is, look, we know we need to be on there and engage more, but we don't know what to post. And so, this is where, not to turn it into promotion, but anyway, I'm off of our 30 LinkedIn boot camp. We took all the questions in that people had. And so now we're coming out with a new digital sales boot camp in the fall, but I won't get into that. But I think engagement, you got to decide either you're going to the watering hole where your customers are or your competitors are. And you already said earlier, something we talk about in our program is you need to know what the other guys are doing in this space, because even as little as they may be having a webinar that you don't know about. And wouldn't it be great to watch their webinar, the way they set up their solution set that you're going to be facing off with the same profile of prospect. I mean, the benefits are unreal. And that's why I just go back to, like, look, whether it's my organization or another, I just think having a professional like show you how to grip the club, how to position your feet, like how to tee up the ball, how to come through, like those basics will set you up for success and not, I think, frustration/failure. Frustration. Hey, Rick, we're doing videos. We did, hey, okay, well, great. But did you, there's a reason you're hitting it behind a tree that's got to go over a forest and over the water. Okay. There's a reason you're in that spot. And I told you at the beginning, like the hole's that way. Anyway, sorry, Ken.
No, that's 100%. And I'm going to go kind of touch a little bit on that, and then we're going to come back to this next question. But
hey, just as a point, sorry, I'm not a golfer. I'm a terrible golfer. So I hope that analogy worked for those of you that are. I live in the woods.
Yeah, I lose golf balls, but then I usually go out and hunt golf balls. And I figure if you lose one and you find 5, you get to subtract scores. Points.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
But anyway, I don't think that's the way the rules work, but that's just my philosophy. I love what Gary Vee says about that you have to give, and before you ask. And I think that LinkedIn is the platform for you to use to give to people. And when I say give, I'm not talking about giving them money. I'm talking about give information that helps people. And it may not be that they're going to come be your customer anytime soon. They may be somewhere across the world from you. But if you get in that pattern of sharing valuable information, and you're a good example of it on the things that you post, this show hopefully it brings value to people, but it is about providing value and helping people that will then enable future business. That's just kind of my philosophy on it.
Well, I think a lot of people have that philosophy, right? It's a mind flip to what we've traditionally done, right? Because traditionally, we learn about product or offering we have, and then we go out and we tell about the product we got. And I think, as I always say, like, sales is the fine art of letting someone else get your way, right? And I think LinkedIn's no different. The challenge, though, becomes is we all know we're supposed to be educational and give information, but I go back to what 360 plus MBAs. Now, these are Green Beret business people. I don't know what to say I don't know what to post to educate. And so again, in this conversation, I'm trying to present ideas like the facility tour video, like these things that we're doing that are working for our clients, right? And a lot of this stuff you can do on your own. But here's an example. If I was a service team that you work with, Ken, I would sit down in the service meeting and I'd say, because, for those of you that don't know, like I come from that industry. I was second in charge of a $30 million MSP. I ran service sales, all that stuff. So I think I can keep up with the pace in terms of, what the realities are. Anyway, if I was running a service meeting today, I'd sit down with the guys and ladies and I'd say, hey, look, everybody write down the top 3 questions your customers ask you all the time. Okay. All the time. And I'd have the reception do the same thing, dispatcher, whatever, right? Now you're going to have a list of questions that your customers are asking. Then you filter those down. Let's say you pick the top 10 or 20, right? And then you get someone that's comfortable on camera in your organization and just answer those questions. Now think about what you got there. Now you've got all those questions, which you could host on LinkedIn. Oh, by the way, place it on your service page, on your website. And it would do a lot of plowing, for example, when someone emails in and says, hey, I got a black streak on my whatever, or hey, whatever the question is. And as basic as that sounds, sometimes people need a little kick in the butt / a little bit of coaching to structure those so that the questions are positioned right. The answers are short enough because, again, we can't be going on and on and on. And oh, by the way, if you haven't tried that, you should try this. And if that, I'm maybe out of school in my analogy here, but the questions, same with the sales team, right? Think about it. And like later this month, beginning of next month, I'm in Minneapolis with a tier 1 dealer, okay, that sells Startaz Imaging. Now they're right up stack in terms of technology. And I'm coming in the day before their customer event to coach their sales team I have about 50 salespeople on how to basically, that we're going to do our LinkedIn bootcamp kickoff. So basically, we're going to set up all their profiles, overcome all these kind of crazy questions that they would never ask, anybody for fear of whatever. But we're going to deal with that, and we're going to get what we're going to create like basically a digital sales force with these people. And inside that, we're going to coach them on how to shoot selfie videos. So this is the afternoon. The next day, they're inviting their customers in, and I'm talking to their customers on basically how to use LinkedIn. Now, so it doesn't just apply to our audience, we'll call it typical audience, Ken, but here's a flip. And now when the customers come in the next day, it's the same pain points, right? It's the same, different kind of music, but the same dance. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have, and this isn't a trickery or anything, we're going to have the salespeople ready to shoot selfie videos. We're also going to coach them to shoot selfie videos with the customers. So they'll be asking the customers the question, and they'll be able to put those out on social media. So for those of you banging a drum right now going, hey, I don't want to show my customers on social media, pick the right customer, right? I mean, but this is the stuff that progressive dealers are doing. And I just think, like, here's a question I would ask, right? Do you think your target customer responds quicker to voicemail, email, or a note on LinkedIn? Now, if you even had to think about that, okay, right away, LinkedIn's at minimum a show ticket, okay? But I don't know another way to get direct access to senior people like LinkedIn. And candidly, Ken, I'm sure you and some of the people that are participating here that are competent on LinkedIn, it's their second inbox. Like you're looking at that almost as much as you're looking at your Outlook. And although some senior dudes that have been in business a while think it's a distraction, it's for millennials, this is where, a lot of times I try to explain it to them, as a older guy, I'll call it, like the application, because they just don't understand it. These are smart business people. They just they never throw them with their left hand. They're always, right-handed. So there's another way to kind of unlock the opportunities.
Yeah. I'm going to pop up a question because this kind of touches on, we'll talk a little bit about ROI. And so Greg asked, is Navigator worth the price, and should employers pay? Have you seen sales reps expense Navigator subscriptions? So let me get your thoughts on that.
So I was in Chicago with a company that basically does, it's a SaaS company, and we were working with their sales team. And I had a guy in the room who's the sales manager, and this guy's actually moonlights as a realtor. So, so we had to fight not about whether the company would provide Navigator. I'll get to Navigator, but how do I want? Am I supposed to be a realtor online, or am I supposed to anyway? So, I think the sooner that sales people, or we as business people, because I think a lot of management, to say, hey, the company should pay for this or whatever. I think the sooner we realize that we work for the name of the person on our business card and not just the logo, I think we'll start to do better for both. That's my opinion. Okay. So should the company pay for it? I think if the company is kind enough to pay for it, and we have some of our clients that have said, hey, look, we want to go to Navigator, we're going to pay for it for our reps. All I would suggest is make sure the rep has earned the right to get access to that platform, because it's a darn shame to give somebody a sports car and it sits in the garage, and doesn't get driven if they're not even, making the effort. And now, by the way, think of the reverse from a hiring standpoint. Like, if you don't think people are looking at your profile, never mind customers, like people are looking at it just to go, okay, is this guy or lady legit or not? But I think the LinkedIn Navigator is one of multiple options, by the way, Greg, that we're using with our clients right now. So is Navigator worth it? Yes. If you don't know Navigator, I would go to linkedin.com and take a look. It shows you what, free gives you, what professional gives you, what, for the money you'd spend on Navigator, I think you'd be able to accelerate a lot of your hunting on LinkedIn, accelerate with automation, like connecting. Like, I use an automation platform on LinkedIn that I can basically target, okay, I want to target all CEOs of SaaS companies in this state, or I want to target. And so I am now using AI and some other platforms like Navigator to accelerate, automate, and simplify basically my performance on LinkedIn. But I don't think anybody should get to some of these advanced levels unless they're basically walking and chewing gum at the same time. And my experience with salespeople is, if you say, hey, they all want something, right? Hey, if I just had this, I could sell so much more, Ken. If I just had that, I could, we give it. And I'm a sales guy too, by the way, so I'm punching myself in the face saying this. But I just think, unless you say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and I've proved it 3 times a week, okay, now we'll give you the squash membership. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So I don't think people should start out by giving their people Navigator. I think, like all of our programs, we built specifically on the free platform because anybody can use it. You can be a star on LinkedIn using the free platform. That's the beauty of it. I'm not sponsored in any way by LinkedIn, by the way. I'm just a sales guy that I'm trying to figure out, how do I create more conversations that convert into more opportunities that are good for the customer and, of course, our company, and then basically sell and implement. I mean, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the clock. We're gone a little long, but that's okay. We're gonna hit a couple of things. First of all, real quick. So let's ask. Do you have a case study that you can share, some information that proves the ROI of spending time and energy on LinkedIn?
Okay, so if someone follows me on LinkedIn, they know we post ROI probably on a weekly basis. But to cut to the chase in time, here's the metrics we measure. Okay, we measure, number one, we measure profile compliance with the brand, meaning that do all the reps look like they work for the same company? Are they all wearing the Buffalo Bills jersey? Okay, for you Buffalo fans. Second way we measure activity. Are the reps actually liking and engaging on the company stuff? Number two, right? Because that drives the formula. Do they even know what's going on? Number three would be connections. Okay. And we suggest 30 net new connections per week. We have a formula we use, as you know, in the program. This is how we think you should invite someone to connect, because a lot of people, when they connect, they send, I would say, it looks like a prospecting email. Hey, we're the number one provider of this, and spooks the guy on LinkedIn or lady. So connections. Then we talk about conversations. Then we talk about pipeline development in terms of our measurement, actual revenue opportunity, and then that converts to sales. And depending, Ken, on the length of the sales cycle, some it's more transactional, but often it's 30, 60, 90, 180 days. But we have numbers beside each of those from our client portfolio in a multitude of verticals. It works. It works. I don't know how you can fight it. I don't know. I'd be interested now, or even if you comment, if you follow me on LinkedIn, by the way, I'm not saying it's the only thing. It needs the supporting, skill set and all the other pieces that make for a successful business, person or process. But I just think, if nothing else, at the end of this program, if you're not active on LinkedIn, or you're thinking, geez, I should maybe think about posting more, hopefully, our conversation today has said, hey, maybe this is something I should relook at or continue doing, and validating what you're already doing.
Yeah, and I agree so much about that. So let's talk about mistakes that people make most often. And sorry to those that expected us to only go half an hour. There's just so much to talk about. Rick and I could go for probably 3 or 4 days like this. But and you mentioned one, and this one annoys me so much. I typically won't respond. If I do, my response is usually pretty tacky, let's say. Is that they will reach out to connect, and I'll accept the connection, and they immediately start pitching something to me. And the thing is they don't even know anything about me, because they'll start talking to me like I'm a company with 100 employees. I'm a one-man operation. So I don't need an HR team. I don't need a payroll. I don't need all of these things that they want to sell me. And if your team is doing that, and I'll let you share your thoughts on this as well, but I think that you are actually, that's a case of damaging your credibility, damaging your company on LinkedIn, if that's your approach.
So in another lane, companies often outsource their tele prospecting. Okay. And they're now using prisoners, in case some people don't know, to actually make outbound calls. Now, I'm not against prisoners. Don't need any knocks on the door today. But when you outsource telemarketing, often the tone, the whatever, it's not your brand, and you can actually fry more prospects than you may gain. Okay, is what I would say in some cases. On LinkedIn, you may be getting hit, Ken, with a lot of these automated processes that say, okay, here's the profile, and you might be seen as CEO of a company. So you get hit with message one that seems okay, you connect, and then basically these bots basically feed you up. If this, then we'll send you that one, right? So I think the mistake they make is they, like I said earlier, the less you sell, the more you'll sell. And so our formula, quite simply, is your first message, your invite to connect, should be, your goal is to get the connection, not to sell something or book a meeting. Okay. The second note, once they've accepted your connection, I call it you should offer what I call a digital coffee, meaning, hey, Ken, a lot of people in your position, thanks for connecting, of course, a lot of people in your position have enjoyed this here. I thought it may be of value. So I'm going to try and earn the right for number 3. And then once the guy or lady comes back and says, hey, thanks for that, which is typically our trigger event that they've received and appreciate it, then we ask for the offline meeting. And for those old schoolers listening today going, is this for me? Don't underestimate. It's all about going from online to offline conversations. And so that's a big mistake selling. The second thing we talked about earlier was political and religious beliefs. And the last thing I would say is, I think foul language is, it creeps in and out. And again, this is your personal brand. I just think, you could be alienating, a percentage of your target audience, maybe attracting some with it, but there's certain pictures people show or they say. And I just think I try to not do anything that I wouldn't want my children who are young teenagers to look at me online and go, hey, Dad, why did you say that? Or why'd you do that? That's kind of my measuring stick, because these digital footprints we're leaving now will last a long, long time. And we want them to be good ones. And that's basically what we're trying to do for our customers, is help them get stronger in this new track meet, that their skills that they've used in a traditional track meet, they just need digital shoes. It's the same game. And we've been really proud to secure so many elite customers and have the ROI that you mentioned to back it up. But I just think, if they're not thinking about today's topic, I hope they are. And if we can help them, be great. There's other people out there that do it. But just get some coaching before you step up to the tee, because you can spray them pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you can do, and that's the thing, again, and I love what you said about, is this something that my children would question about me? And I think that one of the things that everybody needs to keep in mind is to think about the fact that these records are permanent, that, people will see them for maybe decades to come. Platforms change, but again, this information, they go to search for your company, they may find that link there. And I go back to your analogy of a digital chamber of commerce meeting. So think about how you would conduct yourself at a chamber of commerce meeting. If you're in for a meet and greet and you're walking around and talking to people, as you have those conversations, the first words out of your mouth aren't going to be, can I sell you something? You're going to be like, tell me about your business. Tell me what you do. What are some of your pain points? You think about these questions, because most people like to talk about themselves. And if we can get them, and it's true online, or in person, if we can get them to engage and just to have a conversation, I think that is a key piece of it, is to just get them engaged in a conversation, and don't try to rush it. Let the relationship build. I think that is a very important piece of it.
Well, look what you're doing today. Okay. Now, as people watch today, some people, what is obvious to some is revolutionary to others, right? But look what you're doing today. And you've been doing this for a while, consistently. You're interviewing people, you're having conversations, you capture this, you put it to LinkedIn. Why couldn't a customer watching today do the exact same thing? And I can tell you, one of the biggest exploding parts of our business right now is creating podcasts for our clients, video podcasts, just like this. And I would say you're a little more advanced than you let on technically, but again, with a little bit of coaching, how to set these things up. Again, this is just it's a new way of prospecting. And I think people they mistake lead generation, Ken, with demand generation, and I think we're moving more to a demand gen world where I don't want to be sold. And that's why our conversation earlier on, sell tactics. And, I wouldn't walk up to a guy or lady at the chamber and go, "Hi, my name's Rick Lambert. I am the #1 roofer of all roofers. And the reason people select, can we book a meeting, talk about your roof?" I mean, the guy would be gone to the drink tray. Right. So
Exactly.
it's a whole new, it's just, I had to have my bell rung a couple times because I'm a typically offense, and I needed to figure out a way with some candid feedback from some candid mentors that I trust their opinion in this space, and a lot of spectator to figure out like what I was trying to do online. And I'm not perfect, by the way. I make mistakes, but as a guy once told me, like, just do it. Don't think about it, because 7 out of 10 times you'll be right. And those 7 will make up for the 3 mistakes you made. And so that was good coaching as a young guy from one of my mentors.
Yep, I know. I love that as well. And listen, hopefully everybody's found this information useful and helpful. I would ask that if you're not following Level Up, that you do so, because that way you'll get notified. We try to make sure we invite and notify as many people as possible about this show. We have it every week. We have interesting guests. The goal is to help those that listen level up their business in a variety of ways. And I appreciate so much your time, Rick. You've been on several times. I always learn from you. I love to chat with you. So thanks so much.
Yeah, likewise, buddy. And, in case someone hasn't noticed the sign over my shoulder on this side here, right? Success starts in believing in yourself. And, you're living proof of, sometimes you just got to do it, right? And so congrats on what you're doing, buddy.
I appreciate it. We'll say goodbye to the audience. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see everybody next week. And don't forget, keep leveling up.